All right, boys. I got a story right from the jump here. So, watching that game last night, nothing but fun. I mean, emotionally invested, certainly tense, but had the time of my life. And the Warriors wrap it up. And now I'm feeling the kind of excitement and adrenaline that comes with them pulling out this game that I wasn't sure they were going to do. And I pull that move that I normally would do if I want to be excited, but I'm not in a public setting. I'm just in my living room. So I do that scream, but to myself thing. I think I said something along the lines of, let's fucking go, but like to nobody, like under my breath, as loudly as you can when you don't want anyone else to hear. And my 9-year-old happened to be in the room and Kylie sees me doing it. And she says, Daddy, can I tell you something? And because the Warriors had just won, dudes, and so I'm feeling on top of the world. We're in the 5th seed. I couldn't be more optimistic. I'm like, yeah, of course, sweetie. Come on over. Thinking, I don't know what she's going to say. I love you. You're an incredible example. Something like overtly and obviously positive. And when she comes over and says in the most monotone tone of voice she could possibly put out is, Daddy, you care about the Warriors too much. And then she walks back into her room and that's it. That was the whole interaction. My wife, who was grading papers in the same room, heard her, looked up and get a little confirming nod like, yep. Yes, you do. And that was the whole interaction, boys. Let's go to the show. You are in the Warriors Huddle with me, Bram, with me per usual, my master of all things video and sound, Maxine.
How's it going?
And my boy and producer, MT.
What's up, Dev Nation?
Gentlemen, on the other side of a huge win. I've just given you my watching experience. How was it for you guys? How was last night's Memphis victory?
My 17-year-old in the middle of, or 17-month-old came up to me in the middle of the third quarter, and I was like, oh, this is great. He's going to sit on my lap. We're going to watch the game together, and he instead spilled applesauce all over my laptop. So thanks for that. It's pretty much the same thing, right? I think we both had fuck yous from our kids last night.
I was about to say, you have a 17-year-old, and I'm just finding about it now on a Memphis question. It's like, oh, I hadn't mentioned I've got a teenager in my life.
Yeah, I'll keep the train rolling on the same theme. I have a 4-year-old, and she came in and it said, "Are you watching Steph Curry?" And I said, "Yeah." And she said, "I want the Kings to win." And her favorite color is purple. So it doesn't matter who the Warriors are playing. She's rooting for the Kings right then. So.
All right. Last kid take. For no reason at all, 3 quarters through the game, Kylie says, I guess Steph's retiring. And instead of treating it like a 9-year-old who has no idea what she's talking about, he's on his way to 52 points and 11 threes. I'm like, what? No, what have you heard? I literally treated it like it was like some serious thing. And it turns out, no, Steph is not retiring. My daughter does not know shit. She has not been following anybody. She doesn't have like some inside track. And I'm just a crazy man. We've already started talking about it. Let's jump in full to our glass half full, boys. Look back at recent Warriors basketball. Give me something you like or don't like. You don't have to be limited to the Memphis game, although all my takes will be coming from last night. But I won't go first. If either of you have something burning through you, go ahead, fire away.
I like that Steph had a week of rest. He's getting up there in age, and it's the hard part of the season to fight through as you're getting ready to go into the long stretch of a playoff run, hopefully. So the fact that he got to sneak in a week of rest, to me, is a good sign. I think you saw some of the benefits of it with his 52-point explosion.
Draymond and Steve Kerr agree with you. It's like taking a page out of the LeBron playbook, who has missed time in March every year for the last 3 or 4 years. Dre on his podcast said, yeah, it's nice because it's not just the bruised ass bone that he was resting, right? When you take that week off, it's all the other little nagging things that are slowly getting better. And Steve Kerr said the same thing. In fact, Steve Kerr took it a step further and said that he also thought that the golf that Curry got to play was beneficial. He said literally just being outside for Steph is the kind of thing that can reset your mind. And we saw it. Here, I got to take the bait. The related thing, what I'm sure we all like, Steph 50 burgers. What an unbelievable performance, especially since he's apparently considering retirement. I mean, we'll have to get Kylie in to give her opinions on that. But no, I'm running out of ways to say it. I won't repeat myself. It's not just his excellence. It's how fresh his excellence feels on a night-by-night basis. Every single time feels like a different magic show. And last night was real similar. So here, let me turn it into a question. The only thing I like better than 50-point explosions from my favorite player, or 50-point explosions from my favorite player, and then I get to go watch another player put up 60. After the Warriors game finished out, then Denver had that knockdown fight with Minnesota, and Joker puts up 60, although it's in a loss. So the question to you boys is, who had the more impressive evening on the court last night? Who was the king of the court for a single night? Here are the stats. Steph went 52, 8, and 10 with 12 threes in a win. Joker went 61, 10, and 10, triple-double, but in a loss. He also had 6 threes. What do you think? Who was more impressive last night?
Steph, for sure.
Yeah.
It's a win, and he did it in regulation. He didn't need 2 overtimes to get it done. Like, if Steph has 2 more rebounds, right, then he matches the Joker except for points. So I think it's Steph, and it's an easy one. And shout out to Russell Westbrook. I was watching that game, and when he blew that layup, I was like, that's probably not going to end well for you. It's like, why do you even take the layup, dribble it out? But, oh, man, that was rough.
Dude, he blew the layup and then was pissy about it. Stayed on that side of the court for a minute, and they probably should have had a 5-on-4, but luckily they waited for his ass to get down on the other side of the court so he could ultimately have that foul on the 3. I'll agree with you, and I'll add another thing. On the road, right? Joker was at home. Look, 60-burger triple-double, fuck, man, very impressive and part of an unbelievable season he's having. But just that evening, one night, and what the game meant for the standings and in a nasty setting on the road. Yeah, Steph, for sure.
Yeah, and you could tell from the moment, from the tip, both teams wanted this game, right? It was very tense. It was very back and forth, super tight going through the first quarter. It's playoff stakes. And at this point in the season, everybody's jockeying for position. All of this stuff matters. But for Steph to do that in that environment, and look, and this is obviously a homer take that's based more on the eye test than anything. And admittedly, I've watched way more Steph this season than Jokic, but there's a magic to the way that Steph Curry plays, right? There's like a feeling that you're feeling when you're watching the threes mount, like, oh my God, is this the night that he breaks the record for most threes in the game? You just expect greatness from him in a way that you expect greatness from Jokic, but you expect it to be pedestrian. And he's given us that feeling. At each post game, he's like, oh, I had a triple-double. I didn't even realize it. That's just so clearly not what matters to him. Great. I respect that as a guy that just loves the game of basketball, but like there's no showmanship in it. He's working the game. He's working the system, whereas Steph is rising above it. And that's just always going to be more fun to watch.
Add in the factor that the last time we played in Memphis, we lost by 4,000, and Steph literally did not have a field goal. So the first time in his career, he didn't hit a shot. In fact, they asked him about it after the game. So here, let's make it a question. Do you guys think, as Steph was putting up 52 points, he had that previous game in mind, that he had been unsuccessful in Memphis in their previous outing? And before you answer, let me give you 2 opposing views, because Steve Kerr, who I think we have right here, thinks for sure. Let's hear from Steve first.
He just, I think the last time he was here, he didn't make a field goal. I guarantee you that was on his mind. We lost by 50 or something. And, we know how they like to guard him. They've done a great job on him.
Stop right there. All right, so he guarantees it. Steve Kerr guarantees it was on his mind. But I tell you who disagrees. Steph Curry. Here's Steph Curry immediately following the game.
Remember, you went 0 for 7. Did that play into the night? Any motivation?
I'll be honest. I actually forgot that fact. I was just kind of more focused on how big this game was for us. The intentionality that we came out in the first quarter was just a great game plan to understand how they guard us. I thought about their style. They try to junk up the game on defense, top blocks, and trying to send me into the paint and traffic and all that. We had a counter for that to start the game. But other than that, it was just trying to win a big game and embracing the moment.
You can stop her right there. That was actually the second time he said it. As Steph's coming off the floor, Azubuike and Fitzgerald ask him about it. Or they say, I'm sure jokingly in the way that only Fitzgerald can, oh, I'm sure that you not hitting a field goal in the last one had nothing to do with this. And Steph says, oh, I didn't even remember it. The same way we kind of heard it here. So you heard it there. What do you boys think? Do you think when he entered the arena yesterday that Curry remembered that he didn't make a shot the last time he was in Memphis?
I find it really hard to believe. And in fact, I find it so hard to believe. I've like flip-flopped in the course of from the time that you brought this question up to watching these videos to hearing your question again. I've gone back and forth twice because before we watched the videos, and I've seen these already, right? I was like, oh, definitely he remembers. But I trusted Steph so much, and he's such a genuine dude, and it doesn't seem like he would have any reason to lie about that I hear him saying that, and I'm like, oh yeah, of course, he totally forgot. That seems completely real. He was just focused on how important this game was for the standings. And then we stopped the clip, and then you rephrase the question. I'm like, there's no fucking way that he didn't remember that. So I don't know, man.
What's your guess, MT?
I think Steph is honest and, to a fault probably sometimes, but he knows what he's saying. He admits it. He's transparent. So if he says he didn't remember it, I think he honestly didn't remember it. He just approached it like it was a big game. And then, when they reminded him, he was like, oh yeah, that's right. But shoot or shoot. He's not going to stop shooting because he went 0 for 7 last time.
That makes sense to me. Also, it's complete bullshit. Does he remember it? Of course he remembers it. The fuck are we talking about? He is the self-described petty king. PJ Washington does the night to nobody. Does it on the bench, not to Steph. Does it leaving the arena just randomly. You know who sees it and remembers it? Steph Curry. That was a one random off nothing, right? Steph has had one, I don't know how many games he's played in his career. I do not know. Hundreds, right? One time in his life in the basketball universe, he didn't hit a shot. One game. You're telling me he didn't remember that the next time he went back? Again, bullshit. No way. And fine. I like that he's playing it cool. And I mean, I don't know. This is total conjecture. I'm guessing entirely, but it doesn't. Somebody who's paying attention to everything probably remembers the one night where the shots didn't fall for him.
I think he would have remembered it if another player talked about it. If somebody from Memphis was like, yeah, we locked him up. He went 0 for 7 because of our defense. Then that's when the petty king is activated. But it was just, he had a terrible night. And, like the Roger Federer kind of thing where it's like, you have a short memory. Like, he's 40% on his 3-pointers over his career, a little higher. That means you miss more than you make, and he's the greatest shooter of all time. You got to have a short memory.
You miss 6 out of 10. You make the 4 out of 10. Do you remember that? Maybe not. You miss 0 out of 10, 0.0%. Do you remember that? Yes, you do. I'll take it a step further. They're talking about that defense, right? I mean, he says it in the thing. Well, what I didn't remember is they junked it up. You know why they remember that? Because they covered it beforehand. Chances are they had a film session. If he watched a fucking film session of the previous game, and he was just like, oh, weird. I don't see any makes during this, but I just don't remember the game. Again, bullshit. Giant horseshit bullshit.
I don't know. I think we need to ask your daughter to chime in, check her Twitter feed to see for some updated takes on this.
She knows, although she'd come in and be like, are you still caring this much about the Warriors? Like, I thought we talked about this. I was super crystal clear. Another thing I like Pods tip-ins over Ja Morant. In the closing moments of an incredibly important playoff-like game. I love Pods. He's had a difficult season. He's back up on his feet now. But on the things that I did not have for his bingo card, out jumping Ja Morant on a rebound. It's not a thing that I thought we were going to see this season. So let's go.
Yeah. Such a big basket.
100% agree. And also, is it just me or did Ja kind of take at least a half step back? I just feel like, I mean, obviously he's not playing as much and there's maybe stuff going on there, right? In terms of his health and conditioning or whatever, but like he just doesn't feel as scary as he's felt in past years. Not as explosive, right? He didn't get to the rim. He's not as creative with the ball as I'm used to seeing in past seasons. Something just felt different last night with him.
He felt pretty fucking unstoppable to me. It was in comparison.
He played great.
Yeah, he didn't have a 5 in front of his total, right? And ended up with a 50 spot. I think he did end up somewhere in the 30s, and that 3-pointer was just falling. Here's my experience on that, because I don't have his box score in front of me. What I forgot was how annoyed I was just his body posture, how he carries himself. And that only happens when the opposing players are kicking my ass. Otherwise, I don't care how they carry themselves at all. And right from the jump, his confidence, the spring in his step was annoying me for certain. And I don't know, he felt fairly dangerous to me. But here's a Ja thing I don't like. I don't like Ja gun hands. I'm sure you boys saw it, just in case you didn't. Game is basically closed. The Warriors, I think, are up 5-6, less than 40 seconds to play. They call that timeout, and ultimately it ends up in double texts. And what the double texts were from is Heald, whose gesture I did not see, but Heald has some gesture according to the NBA. And then Ja, in response, reaches out with both hands and does a gun sign with both of his hands towards the Warriors bench, a thing that Draymond notices instantaneously and calls out to the refs almost immediately. And now this is being investigated. But here's why. So, you see the hand signal, guns hand signal every now and again amongst players. One time isn't that big of a deal, but it isn't one time for Ja. Here, this is from ESPN. Quote, Morant, 25, a two-time All-Star, has twice been suspended by the NBA due to brandishing a firearm on social media. First incident, March of 23, during an Instagram live stream while Morant was partying at a suburban Denver nightclub after a loss to the Nuggets. The NBA issued an indefinite suspension. That one ended up spending 8 games. I'm going to go quick here. Next one, suspended 25 games during the 23-24 season for brandishing a firearm during an Instagram live stream. So really, this is conjecture again, not reporting, just my opinion. I think that Ja Morant was very close to being the face of the league. The NBA desperately needs American stars. His skill set is not only successful, it's sexy. It's fun to watch. He jumps out of a gym. He's exciting. Millennials loved his game, and they're going to reward him with it. I think he was going to become what Ant Edwards is now, is the unquestioned future. And then he can't stop showing guns. He literally just cannot stop showing guns. All they want him to do is stop making gun references. And apparently he cannot. The just last night is firing off another gun reference for zero reason. I can't find his ad deals. You can always look up a player's contract with their team. Harder to look up the advertising money, but from what I can tell, Nike, for example, is paying him about $12.5 million a year. That's just one of the people who would most likely like to have him be their, face of their product. And so all he has to do to get at least $12.5 million a year is stop doing gun references. All right. So let me see random questions for you guys. Yeah. Other things, if I offered to pay you $12.5 million, would you do it? Here's the first. Maxime, would you stop using your hands just while you speak in public, like I'm doing now, to accentuate what you're doing for a year? If I gave you $12.5 million, would you stop doing that?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like I might have a couple of opportunities to maybe slip it in some serious situations where I really need to drive a point home. But otherwise, yeah, I can utilize my pockets for $12.5 million.
But by the third time, like the first time, they're like, you're suspended 8 times. Stop using your hands. You did it again 25 times. There's not a third time. You're just going to take the 12.5 and you're not going to use your hands. All right. I'll take the second one. Would I stop wearing pants in public for $12.5 million? Okay. And shorts are allowed, right? I'm not just going nude. I got to wear shorts to wherever I go. I'm an attorney. I'm going to court. Would I do that for a year? Yes. Yes, I would. That's going to cause some problems. I'm going to lose some money. Like my clients aren't going to be super happy. $12.5 million. Yes, dude. I'm showing up in shorts. No problem. MT. All right. $12.5 million. But in public, you cannot use the words and, but, or the. You just got to keep them out of your vocabulary. Do your best while you're in public. Would you do it? $12.5 million.
I feel like that's not the same. Like Maxime just doesn't have to use his hands. And
it's getting hard. It's hard, all right? Fuck you. I'm in court in shorts, dude. It's purposely getting harder. Would you give it a shot? $12.5 million. Would you at least try it?
I would definitely give it a shot. And I would be in the same position as Ja, where I'd be reprimanded for breaking it. And then I would just, at about mid-February, because I had already blew it twice, I would just stop going out and you wouldn't see me for
Exactly right. You just, yeah, that's what you do, right? You take whatever precautions you need to make sure this is not happening again. So this crescendos in this question. Would you stop making gun gestures for $12.5 million in public? I mean, who says no to that? Who's like, no, I just can't. Like, what if they talk shit to me? What if my hands are itchy and I need to scratch them in a gun-like fashion? I can't. How could you, what possible thing would lead you to be like, no, I'm sorry. Keep your money. Fuck you. I need to be able to make a gun gesture.
Yeah. And the other part is, like not knowing exactly what his childhood was, but from all the reporting, it seems like he did not have like a tough childhood, like he grew up fairly well off. So it's not like he was, like in a dangerous neighborhood with guns everywhere. And that was just the only way he could survive. Like he's just like obsessed with doing it.
I mean, of course you're right. I don't know any of the backgrounds really of anyone in the NBA. I care to guess. I'm sure someone in the NBA has had some nasty background. You know who else I associate with making gun gestures, even though they're not supposed to? Nobody, not one person. There has not been one background. I'm like, well, he did go through, like, that's why he's no, there's not. Nobody has this insatiable need to fire off the gun gesture.
But I think your point is, as we ramped up and we admitted that we would even consider not using conjunctions in public for a year for $12.5 million, are we at the point where we're maybe asking, does Ja have a really rare version of Tourette syndrome that's like gesturally based, right? Because some people like cuss and they just can't handle, right? Like it is what it is, and he just like can't help. But it might be an involuntary thing. I think we should look into it.
Do you know how incredible that would be if there's some documentary and it's Ja in the beginning of every conversation, like, look, man, I got to apologize in advance, but this is just going to be happening all the time. There's nothing I can do. Like, I don't mean to be threatening you. It's a medical condition and I will be making gun gestures throughout this. And I really apologize. I am so sorry about that.
You used the word "and" 3 times, so no money for you.
Yeah, but to be fair, I'm wearing shorts. So, I mean, I didn't, that's your fucking cross to bear, dude. Like, not mine. I just have to roll around with very cold legs. One last thing I didn't like about last night, and it wasn't a skirmish, but it was right before the Ja Gunhand thing. But a foul gets called. They're fouling on purpose. Steph has the adrenaline of someone who's having the game that he's having. And it takes him a little while to get out of, I think it was Desmond Bain who had fouled him on purpose, and Salty or Santi Aldama is over there too. But he gets out of the little skirmish and then he raises up to just take a shot, and I've seen the move where the play is dead, whistle's been blown, someone goes up to take a shot, and then before it can go in, I've seen the defense jump up and goaltend it to make sure they don't see it go through the net. We see that all the time. What I haven't seen and what I didn't like is what Bain did last night. He fouled Steph on the shot. He literally hit his hands on the way up. That's not some things that happened. I watch a lot of NBA games that you don't, if maybe someone under the basket takes care of it, but you don't fucking foul the shooter. That's not you. It was a thing that stuck out to me. I rewound maybe 20 times, kept pointing it out to the other people in the room who did not care at all. Erica and Kylie did not, in no way. They're just like, is this game over? I was like, no, look, he's shooting. It's like, why are you rewinding? It's like, no, you're not. You don't see. It was what it was.
It does bring up, I mean, I not to belabor the point a ton because I know that's a big talking point right now, but it felt pretty egregiously lopsided from the referee perspective last night. I mean, right, with like, at almost the end of the first half, John just straight up like shoves Moody completely into the first row, right in front of the ref. No call. It felt like we were playing some 5-on-8 last night. Which made it really, really frustrating, especially, and I think it's like, it's what keeps Steph from having more of these kinds of games because he's getting clawed and beat up constantly. It sucks. It sucks as a Warriors fan. I feel like it sucks as a fan of basketball in general.
It sucks that we have to feel like fatigue from bringing this up. That a person who is worth what he is worth to this league, the billions of dollars, the 9 figures of value that Steph Curry represents on the floor, is not protected on a game-by-game basis is just insane to me. Is absolutely insanity. And we said it so often that I'm almost gun-shy in bringing it up as a topic, because we just keep hitting this over and over and over again, but it's justified. It's like, what the hell? It's just happening on a night by night.
Yeah. And then the other challenge the league has is they've typically said, or fans have said, it's because of his style and how he plays. But now Trae Young averages the second most free throw attempts in the league. So it's like, that's the exact same type of game that Steph plays. So if Trae Young is getting those calls, like there's that shove, there was that play where Ja came around the screen and just bumped into Steph, literally like hit his arms and knocked him off. And everybody kind of stopped, except the rest were like, no, that was clean. This is, to your point, it's frustrating and it feels bad that we have to complain about it. But it's, for him to have 52 points and only 8 free throws, like how much would he score if he actually got a fair whistle?
I feel like David Stern is rolling over in his grave. You can't, why are you not protecting him? How is this a thing that is continuing? I'll turn it into a thing I like. Jimmy Butler deciding to foul Jaren Jackson Jr. out in the fourth quarter there, when he probably could have just gone up for a mid-range, but instead pump faked, got him up, and then just drew it. Such intelligent basketball. Now Jackson's out. Almost looked like he hurt his shoulder, but just smart, savvy play. And can you say the quiet part out loud with your body? I was going to say that Jimmy had a really quiet game yesterday, but he was 25, 7 and 6 or something like that, or maybe even 27. So he is, the quiet part is out loud, even though he is not making sure, he's not trying to dominate. He's continuing to be passive. His numbers, when you look at him afterwards, are still dominant. And another thing I like.
100%.
Yeah, I love that.
And totally. Go ahead, Menti.
No, I was going to say, I love that at the end of that, too. He looked at Jaren Jackson Jr. and was like, move. I got to shoot some free throws.
Hell yes. Hell yeah. And he's like, why are you complaining? You may remember 30 minutes ago, 7 foot, 300-pound Edie destroyed my ankle and I'm still out here. And there was no time. There's no complaining, like nothing. I'm just still playing.
This is, Brett, I feel like we've talked before about playoff Jimmy and trying to understand with Wes about what it looks like to have him on your team going into the playoffs. This was a very important game. We were jockeying with Memphis for the 5th seed in the standing. It was obvious, like I said earlier, there was some playoff intensity. I think we got a taste of what playoff Jimmy looks like last night, right? The locked in, the little extra detail stuff, to pay attention to that, to know what to do to foul Jaren Jackson out. I mean, that's not that big of a call, right? You got to track that he's had 5 fouls. But it's like you felt it. You felt his impact on a level of like, oh, this dude is locked in and he's fucking smart and he's being a glue guy. And it's not even about necessarily what you see in the box score. It's about doing all of the little stuff to ensure that we get the win.
I've watched 4 titles. 4 titles, more success than I ever thought I was going to watch with this team. And despite those 4 titles, there have been, 50, 100, a lot of instances at the end of games where I was super nervous. How are they going to get a bucket? This offense, I don't know where they're going to cut. Having someone like Jimmy Butler who gets you those easy points, who gets to the line in times you desperately need it, is an element we've never had. 4 titles in, we've never had, so it's a huge upside. All right. To our golden questions, boys. This is our mailbag. People write in, give us things about the Warriors. They occasionally get personal, always deal with Golden State. Here's the first. Gentlemen, who would you prefer to play in the playoffs, LA or Denver? So it's getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, right? There's still more than a few games to play. The Warriors did get the 5th seed last night. And if you look at the standings, there's a lot of moving parts, but optimistically, if we stay out of the play-in, then the most likely opponents are either the Lakers or Denver, which is why I would imagine this gentleman suggested this question. So what do you think, boys? If it was up to you, if you got to control basketball destiny, which one of those two is a better matchup?
I'm definitely scared either way. But the thing is, on the one hand, I'm scared of Jokic. On the other hand, I'm scared of everything on the Lakers, right? I'm scared of their depth. I'm scared of the momentum that they have. JJ Redick feels like he's on the way in, whereas Mike Malone feels like he's on the way out. Things kind of feel like they're falling apart a little bit in Denver. Case in point, the Minnesota loss last night. You start to see Russell Westbrook being the Jekyll and Hyde, right? We're going more Hyde or Jekyll this time around with those just like boneheaded mistakes. Reminded me of J.R. Smith, right? Like that's the type of shit that loses you playoff rounds. And so I'm taking the Jokic fear over the entire LA thing that's going on. The Los Angeles Lakers are a big team overall, right? They have two dudes in Luka and LeBron that can both be playing off ball while the other is managing the point position. It's a very, very scary team, and I think they continue to look like they're on an ascendant trend, whereas I feel like Denver is not as scary. They both terrify me, which is why you heard that pregnant pause from both me and MT, I'm sure, but I picked Denver.
MT, you agree?
Yeah, I agree. I don't think you want to see a motivated and slightly rested LeBron Luka duo and then all their pieces. Like Austin Reeves typically plays well against us, which is annoying. Vando and Finney Smith are long, rangy guards that they'll just put on Steph, and it'll be annoying. Gabe Vincent probably plays well. He's probably a BC version of playoff Jimmy. He played really well in the playoffs for Miami during their run. So I think we want to avoid them and just take our chances in a 7-game series, figuring out how to rotate and just hoping Russell Westbrook shoots them out of the series.
Clean sweep. I also picked Denver. I mean, the only upside I think of LA would be travel. I mean, easier travel, but Denver's not very far, and that travel thing would benefit the Lakers too. They're just as old as we are. LeBron would also like not having to travel far. Subjectively, for me, way too emotional for a first round series. I take those Laker games so goddamn. I'm nervous about tomorrow, let alone a 7-game series against them. Do I need that in the first round? Hard fuck no. And if we need like some kind of objective numbers or settings, the number that stuck out to me from last night's Denver loss was not the 60 burger. It was the 52 minutes it required from Joker. And I understand double overtime. I mean, I get that the game was longer, but what that really underlines is their lack of depth. He is the best player on earth right now. I will concede that, but there's not a whole lot of other people who really scare me on that roster. I understand that Michael Porter Jr. can score. I also understand he can disappear. I understand that Russell Westbrook is having a comeback year. He's coming back from being terrible. Aaron Gordon doesn't terrify me when he's taking those threes. I mean, they're a threat. They're ahead of us for a reason. But if I've got to pick one of the two, it's Denver, and I think that that's true for most Warrior fans out there. I'll end this analysis with the final take. I was on a Denver Nuggets podcast a few weeks back, and what they admitted to me is, look, we don't want to play you guys. We'd be fine. I mean, like if I had to bet on it, I'd bet Denver, but we don't want to have any piece of Golden State and the Warriors, and that's kind of stuck with me. The only thing I would like about an LA matchup is I wouldn't mind using our newfound confidence with Jimmy in LA. I felt so off the last few times we've played the Lakers, and if we're guaranteed a win, who would I prefer beat? Holy shit, the Lakers 10 out of 10. You know what I mean? Without that guarantee, I'd prefer let's just stay away from that series if we can, if it's up to us.
Yeah, I think it's good analysis. I'll just add that I think we should be afraid of Aaron Gordon's 3-point shooting. He's become a legitimate 3-point threat this season.
I refuse to be afraid of it. I had this argument with Tony Frasero. I'll have this argument with you. Nope, I will not be afraid of that. And it just is what it is. One more thing about why I don't want the Lakers, the whole boxing lights thing in Staples. Steph does not shoot in particularly well when we play against the Lakers. Okay, to our second and last question. And this one I'm really excited about. So this one's coming from me. The topics that stick out to me, if I have drinks with friends and a question comes up that ends with us being not like really angry, but like involved, like we're having an emotional discussion over drinks about basketball. And it doesn't happen that often, but this one has given me a couple of emotion-filled conversations. And so I want to bring it to the podcast to see what you guys feel about it. All right. So it's a magic power scenario. Good news, bad news. Let's start with the bad. Bad news, gentlemen. Warriors cannot win it. They're not going to win it next year. Basketball gods have stopped by. They are telling us terrible news. I'm sorry. They may be in the future. They will. But this next year, Golden State will not be winning the championship. There's the bad news. Good news. They're going to give us a magical power to help us deal with this disappointment. All right. And in fact, you get to pick one of two. Either you get to pick the champion. Can't pick Golden State. They're not going to win it. But you can pick anybody you want. You can pick Milwaukee and hand it to Dame Lillard. You can pick Miami and give Wiggins another champion. You can pick the champion. Or instead of picking the champion, you can pick a team to not win anything for 5 years, right? So to weaponize it, if I pick the championship route, I could hand the Lakers a championship right now, or I could decide, nope, Lakers will definitely not win for 5 years. Those are the two possibilities. You can be a helper or a hater. All right. Don't tell me what you would do. Instead, judgment theater, gentlemen. What would I do? The basketball gods have bestowed this power upon me. I've got to tell them what I want to do. What do you think my answer is?
I don't want to fall into tropes here because I think sometimes you really do surprise me with your kindness, but I think you're going the hater route here. It's just a lot easier and it's a much more powerful thing, right? You give somebody one or you essentially take away. I mean, I think there's very few people who we could project be meaningfully valuable over the next 5 years to give somebody a championship. So you're essentially eliminating somebody's championship window on one of these teams. And I think that's more powerful than giving, for example, Wiggins an additional one, which would be sweet. And I would love for him to get it. But also fuck Pat Riley. So I'm out on that scenario in general. But I think that's going to be the catch everywhere and why you're going to end up skewing towards the dissent or the hater version is that there's always somebody on one of these teams that we don't like, right? So you kind of got to take the good with the bad, but on the other end, you could just screw over a whole franchise.
MT?
Yeah, I agree. I think the temptation to ensure that the Lakers don't win a championship supersedes and outweighs any other benefit of you being able to handpick a winner. So if you're like, well, we're not winning it this year, but we could win it over the next 4 years, and we're guaranteeing that the Lakers won't, then I'm all in.
What would I do? Of course I would be the hater. What a ridiculous question. If there wasn't even a secondary power, if they're like, all right, good news, you could just hand the championship to someone else, I'd be like, fuck that. Nobody wins. Like, it's just throw it off to the side. But as far as like using the hater power, not only would I take that power, I'm going on a Grim Reaper tour, gentlemen. I'm informing Sports Center. They're following me from arena to arena. I would want to have like a magical button that I bring to the arena. And when I press it, if I press it, boom, your team's done. 5 years, championship window. Shut, it's out. And I would bring it to a bunch of places, even when I didn't want to bring it. Like, I'd bring it to Sacramento. I'm not going to use this power on Sacto. They're not winning shit in 5 years anyways, but I'm still bringing it there. And I'd bring the button out. I just have it. Everyone would get hella nervous and I wouldn't use it. I would like bring it around the country. And the two places I'd have to really, really think about, Boston and the Lakers, you know? And like, cause I'd love to shut down that city. And then I'd like to shut down the ultimate title window of the Lakers. Be hard to tell. I'm not sure exactly what I'd do. Being able to look Jason Tatum in his eye and be like, oh, you thought the Olympic shit was hard? Fuck you for 5 years. Good luck with this. Would be incredible. But maybe more satisfyingly, and I think ultimately my answer, and the end game on this would be like LeBron's The Decision. I'd go to the Boys and Girls Club. And we'd have like Lakers, Boston. I'd have my button and shit. You're not sure what we're going to do. Ultimately, but yep, I'd make eye contact, hopefully with LeBron and Luka, and be like, 5 years. Sorry, buddy. It's over. The window is slammed shut. Like LeBron's not even going to be here anymore. You might as well stop playing right now. So there you go. There's my hater through and through. Let's go to Maxime. My guess on Max, so I would have, before he offered his analysis on me, I would have told you helper. You know, he's like, he feels like that kind of guy. But his analysis is making me switch a little bit. So I've got other things to say that I'm going to hold back till I get both of your guys' responses. For now, I'll just guess. I say Maxime goes hater route.
I'm going to go helper. I think he gets over his initial hatred of Pat Riley and wants to be there for Wiggs.
Yeah, who's he give it to? So I say hater Lakers. You say helper, and then he gets Miami. Who does he give it to?
Yeah, the Heat.
Just because of Wiggins? Like he's just happy about Wiggins? All right, Maxime, what's the answer?
It is true. I really love my boy Wiggins, but no, fuck that, man. The Lakers have gotten an absolute like coup of a steal in this fucking draft with the Dallas Mavericks. We still don't understand the full details of what's going on there. I love it. So like Luka, like no. It would be so sweet for Lakers fans to be like, oh, we got our next generational superstar. Like here we go, right? The title window is open for the foreseeable future. Like no, and I love the wrinkle that you're bringing in of like parading the magic button around, and I'm wondering like, can we like, when do we have to press the button, right? Could we be like game 7 of the finals next year, right? And then it's like, oh, sorry Lakers, you don't get this one nor the next 4, right? Like how much can we milk this, because I want them to feel all the pain.
You make him hella nervous. You're showing up to each finals game like, what's he doing here, dude? Like, what's like we're already in the finals. Like, why is Magic Button Bram here? What the wrinkle you've given me in the decision when we ultimately pressed it for the Lakers, I'd invite Nico Harrison in and he'd press the button for me. Be like, boom, we've got a fucking special guest star here to ultimately slam the window shut. All right, we go to MT. MT is gonna. I think he wants to tell us helper. But I can tell you right now, Marcus, that's a ridiculous decision. Do not do that. In my opinion, sports is about rivalries. We're not handing shit to anybody else. The conversation I had with somebody else, they told me they would give it to Milwaukee because of Dame Lillard. And it immediately made me annoyed and angry. And what my takeaway was that if in a couple of years we find ourselves in a knockdown fight with the Lakers, you know, like that's what's happening, and we lose, I'd blame the person who didn't shut their fucking title window. Dame Lillard is over here celebrating, but we didn't have to because you could have shut him down. So there's and I'd be celebrated in the Bay as the Laker killer for life. Free drinks, free food, everything, forever, everywhere I went. All right. So MT is going to be the hater. I think he may have gone the other direction, but I trust in the power of what I've just said. So that's my guess. Maxime, what's your guess?
Yeah, that also reminds me, first of all, so Zach Lowe is back, and as a podcast junkie, I'm just so excited that he's back. He's with The Ringer now, and I heard him do a pod with Bill Simmons to sort of reintroduce him to the world, and was like, oh, no time has passed. This is so glorious. He talked about interviewing a bunch of people before Boston's title last year about Al Horford and how much like Billy Donovan and like ex-teammates and stuff were just so pumped that Al Horford might be able to win a title. And I'm like, yo, at the same time, it also means that Boston is winning a title. Like, are we not seeing this clearly? This is not okay. So I'm doubling down on what you're saying, Bram. But also the fact is, I tried to like hold my cards a little bit when we were guessing for you. It was like, yeah, like, you know, it's a team to hate on. It makes more sense. And MT's like, yeah, we're talking about the Lakers here. So I think it's very clear that no matter how he might feel normally, we are in a very special situation. If we were talking about this 6 months ago, before the Fire Nico chants were entering into the stratosphere of the NBA, he might be a helper. But this specific instance, we're all in on Lakers hate right now.
MT?
So you're wrong, and I'll tell you why.
What?
You guys have both missed the boat here, and here's why. So initially, you think like Steph has forced himself into the conversation of being the GOAT. And what's the one thing that would probably keep it between MJ and LeBron is another title for LeBron. So that makes me seriously want to play the hater role and join you guys. However, I just used a bunch of words I wasn't allowed to on the street and lost $12.5 million. So I am going to pick the champion, and I'm going to pick Utah after I go to Vegas and put a bunch of money on them because their odds are terrible. So championship, I win it anyways, even if I don't guarantee it. I think OKC beats them, so I don't even need to waste it. I can use my genie wish to make sure that I can use and, but, and the anytime I want.
You're getting booed every time you enter the arena. This is going to be a fucking public thing. Like I am, if you try to keep it somehow secret, I'm going to the fucking streets. I am like buying billboards, ad space, everything. Every time we do this podcast, all I'm going to say is for 25 minutes is that Marcus made sure that the fucking Utah Jazz won instead of killing our biggest rival. He decided to line his pockets instead of destroying the Lakers, destroying Boston, destroying racism. You had a chance to end racism in sports, and instead you wanted to fucking put Utah into the championship circle, man. Like that, this is a disgusting response.
Live from Salt Lake City, the Warriors Huddle podcast.
Just me and Nico smashing that haters button hell of times. Hell of
Me
times.
and D-Wade chilling in Salt Lake City, drinking some soda.
All right. Big fun, you guys. Leave me with a prediction. So we are about 24 hours before the Warriors play the Lakers. In fact, some people listening to this, at least as far as we're concerned, are from the future. They know what happened, and so they'll know immediately if we were wrong or right with the prediction. I don't know the spread. I haven't looked at it. It's there. So my guess is we're underdogs, maybe 3.5, 4. I'm not sure what it is. So yeah, what's your guess? What happens on Thursday evening?
I think we lose. And I'm saying that, I obviously want us to win, but I think we saw how much energy was put up between Memphis and Warrior and Golden State last night. And I think it's going to be a very similar thing. A lot of the narratives is like, all right, these are two teams that made big changes at the trade deadline. It's an opportunity for both of them to show how serious they are as they rise up the potential playoff bracket standings or whatever. And I think the Lakers are really going to want the win. And I think it was really hard for us to get the win against a Memphis team that is falling apart, that just fired their coach, kind of in disarray. And I think the Lakers are going to be a much stronger challenge for us.
Wish we had GP2. Yeah, I mean, like I'd love to have our prime perimeter defender for this matchup, especially with Luka. I'm going to hedge optimistic. I think that Jimmy knows not only what this game means overall, but what this rivalry tends to mean for these two teams. And I think he tries to put his stamp on it. I'm not sure if I believe this or I'm just trying to speak it into existence. But either way, Warriors.
Yeah, I think the Warriors win, and it's a bit of an upset, but mostly because they don't want to have to play their stars. They want to give people some rest on the back-to-back in Denver. So if you lose that, then there's added pressure that you actually have to play and win in Denver. So I think they try to take care of business and then give a little extra rest and let the Denver game be what it is.
I don't mind pointing out, I saw there's a gambling term. If the second half of a back-to-back involves travel, it's called a scheduled loss. Generally speaking, don't touch that game for the person who's had to travel. That's what the Warriors are going to do. Most of the time, it's on the road. This way, it's the other way. They're playing in LA on Thursday, at home on Friday. But just that in itself is a really big challenge. The idea that the NBA schedule makers tattooed the Warriors with that two-step after this long of a road trip is nothing short of bullshit. I mean, I don't know what goes into this. I don't know how they make these decisions. It's not necessarily a conspiracy, like someone's behind it trying to screw over the Warriors, but I can tell you the impact of it is, like I said, bullshit. I don't like the way the schedule is playing in any way, but I do think, I think they pull it out against the Lakers. And I'm just happy that MT didn't say that he was just hoping Utah would win Thursday, regardless of who plays. So there you go. We landed in a good place. Fuck you. And I don't want to hear you say and the or but for a long time. Really a long time. Gentlemen, great stuff. You guys know where to find us. We are on social media everywhere. We are on YouTube, where we would love your support. With that in mind, go Warriors. Hopefully, we'll see you real soon.